Central Texas Life with Ann Harder.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Central Texas Life. Ann Harder here with you. And I want you to meet a visitor to Waco. A visitor sort of in view of a call, as they say. His name is Wes Schultz. Likes to go by Wes. But he is one of the 4 finalists for conductor, music director for the Waco Symphony Orchestra. So you are here in Waco, and I love talking to folks who are kind of seeing this part of Central Texas with fresh eyes. But you got 2 graduate degrees in Austin, so
I did. Yes.
You're not a newcomer to Texas.
No, I'm familiar with Central Texas, and I'm so thrilled to be back.
But Waco's sort of when you tell me, you go through. You're going through Waco to get to somewhere else. So how have you found our fair city?
Look, and I'm so happy to be here today with you. So thank you for having me on your show. And, I've always just delighted in the expanse of Texas. People always talk about big blue skies, and those are true. I had some of those moments driving around. I like to see cities on foot. So one of the first things I did when I came to town, since I haven't been in Waco before, I spent time down in Austin, but I hadn't ever been able to come visit until now. But I love exploring on foot. So I got my running shoes out and ran up and down the river walk and up towards Cameron Park. And for me, that's a great way to get a sense of the size and the scope of the city. Sometimes you look over your shoulder and see how far you went, and you get a new perspective on the horizon. So I've enjoyed doing that and driving around town, seeing all of the busyness of people who are enjoying the restaurants and coffee bars. And it's a city that you can tell is growing. There's excitement building, and that's certainly the case at the Symphony. And one of the things that just really pulled me in when I saw this opportunity come up.
Well, this is being taped prior to the concert
Yes.
that you will be conducting, and but it's not going to drop, as they say in podcast parlance, until after the concert. And I'm excited about the concert. Yeah. You've had a few rehearsals under your belt with the Waco Symphony. I mean, how are things going so far?
Oh, things are going great. We're about midway through that process. We're 2 rehearsals in. We have 2 to go before our performance. And this is the joy, I think, for a lot of conductors. Yes, it's in the performance, but it's really in the work that's being done. And that's what's, done out of sight, of the audience. But that's where the majority of the time is spent with the musicians and I. And so it's a process of discovery of, I come in with, an idea of a piece of music, and I do my best to understand what a composer wants us to pull out of that music. But when you add the musicians' voices, when you get there the first time, it's my opportunity to listen to them and their ideas and fold those into, what I've been thinking of. And so for 2 days now, we've been doing just that, meeting one another, listening to each other's ideas, and coalescing them around what we'll present at the concert on Saturday.
You had the opportunity to visit with Maestro Stephen Hyde, who, of course, for 34 years, conductor and a music director, and of course he has left you with all of us with a wonderful theme this year, the magic of music, and what a great theme for you, because of the pieces that you're working on right now. A couple of very familiar ones, and maybe a little less familiar, and then a little more modern work. Let's talk about the actual music because I know you're just immersed in it right now. You're really focused on these pieces.
Yeah. That theme, orchestral magic, there's you can pull it in so many different ways. So, indeed, we have the Hocus Pocus magic, right, which is in the piece that Maestro Hyde chose, which is The Sorcerer's Apprentice by Paul Dukas.
Everybody thinks of Mickey Mouse.
Absolutely. It's funny. That's
Fantasia.
That's right. And it's just like, if Aaron Copland and his piece Hoedown, remember those beef commercials from the 1990s?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that
of course,
piece
that's what's for dinner.
Exactly. And everyone now knows the Copland piece. So, of course, absolutely. This is one of those pieces that Mickey Mouse made famous, so to speak. And so that piece, of course, has the actual, sort of sorcerer and his young apprentice and casting his spell on the brooms to do all this work. And so that was the piece that was chosen. And then as I was musing, what would go well with this, or contrast it, this piece on the program. And I really wanted to explore a piece that is I guess what we say is canonical. There's these really famous works in which the Sorcerer's Apprentice is one, Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, right? Tchaikovsky's Fourth Symphony. Yeah. So I decided to do Berlioz' Symphonie Fantastique because it's one of those well-known pieces. It's a great piece for the orchestra and I to get to know one another. And I also found out it's a piece that hasn't been played by the Waco Symphony in decades, actually. So
which is surprising.
Yeah, which is surprising.
Yeah,
I think the Baylor Symphony.
Since we've done it.
Yeah. So in a way it'll sound fresh, I hope, to our audience's ears. That this piece, that though it's familiar in the industry, it just hasn't been played in town in a while. And of course,
but it's big. I mean, you have to have a lot of musicians.
Gosh. It's a full stage. Yeah. Berlioz, we've got 4 bassoons on stage. We've got 2 tuba players, an army of strings, and some backstage surprise instruments. If you don't know the piece, then I'll let those be a surprise at the performance. So absolutely, we've got an army of musicians on stage, and what that creates is this wide palette of colors, which is a magic into itself, right? Leading to that theme. Of course, there's a story that goes along with Symphonie Fantastique, but it's the way Berlioz uses the instruments of the orchestra and the colors that he pulls out, which I think is so wonderful to the ear. So I think that in itself is a great contrast to Sorcerer's Apprentice. But we're going to open the program with a wonderful work by Anna Klein. She is in demand as a composer all over the world. There's you can track statistics on anything, and one thing I just read is that she's the 8th most performed living composer in the world.
Really?
So she's really taken off her composing career, and she wrote a piece called This Midnight Hour, and it's inspired by 2 poems. So it's similar to both of the other pieces on the program, in which there's a story that guides the music. And so knowing a little bit of that story, which is a bit of a wild story, the poems essentially are about a setting maybe at the midnight hour, of course, and this woman running through the night wildly, the poem tells us, and so there's a lot of vivid colors that she pulls out of the orchestra. And she too uses a large orchestra, and you'll hear these magnificent ways that she uses the instruments. She has the string players playing with the wood of their bow, which Berlioz was one of the first composers ever to do. So there's sort of that similarity of,
that
you can
has
see
what the sound is like. What
it's like, if you think of like wood tapping on something, but they're tapping on the strings of their instruments. So there's
with
resonance.
The wood part,
but with the wood part, and Berlioz did that for the first time in Symphonie Fantastique, and that technique is being used hundreds of years later, in Anna Klein's music. So there's kind of this circular nature relationship too.
When people think of modern music, they think of just kind of crazy sounding stuff. Is this from what you were telling us at the Symphony Council the other night, that she has the music going from one part of the stage to the other? I'm really fascinated with that. Yeah,
she has a background in electroacoustic music, or you just think like electronic music or anything recorded. But just think of 2 speakers, and if you're facing those speakers, one to your left, one to your right, and they can do this effect where the sound through those speakers pans from one side to the other. So kind of the left side of your head to the right side of your head. And she's kind of taken that idea in electronic music and put it in the orchestra. So you can both watch and hear this effect. She does several times, where starting in the violins to my left, if you're facing the stage, and there's a motive that will unfold from the violins and then spread to the right of the stage, and then back, kind of like doing the wave at a baseball game.
Yeah.
So it's and that's why it's it's always so. You have to go hear music live, because you can hear this effect in a recording, but getting to see it as well kind of magnifies the effect. And so I think she is kind of going for this visual effect as well as this auditory effect.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a magical night. I'm really looking forward to it. Back to the Berlioz a little bit. I mean, he was sort of a mess.
but in a good way.
In a good way. I left us some great music, but I mean, he sort of had issues.
Yeah, he had some
issues. As I would say in the South, he had some issues.
He had some issues. He was very young when he wrote this piece of music.
Was he really?
Yeah, he's in his 20s. And
oh my goodness.
And what inspired it, right, was he attended a play, and he saw this actress on stage. He's like, wow, I like her.
Yeah.
And it started out innocent, maybe got a little bit of obsessive in the way that he took his interest in her and he put it into the music. This music is inspired because of this. So it's sort of a very weird a love letter to this person that he is interested in. And, she did end up hearing the piece, and they did end up getting married.
Yeah.
It didn't work out. But it's just one of those fascinating tales
I'm sure
of
she
history.
was maybe flattered, sort of, kind of.
Yeah, in a creepy way.
In a creepy way.
And that makes it sound all sort of, odd or negative.
Yeah.
And that's, more important is his imagination.
Yeah.
This piece and his music, his life is taught in every music textbook, every music appreciation course, that the sounds that he pulled out of the orchestra. And this piece was written 4 years after Beethoven's Ninth Symphony.
That's what stuns me. You mentioned that the other night because it seems so much more modern, shall
Absolutely.
we say,
You're right.
in style.
You think it would this piece was written decades later after
you would
Beethoven.
Yeah, you would think.
That's
you
right.
Would think.
And it just
almost,
shows
romantic type. Just
absolutely.
very different.
Absolutely in that romantic vein. And Beethoven was tilting toward it by adding voices with his Ode to Joy.
Sure, yeah.
And Berlioz just took that and sprinted.
He just went crazy.
Yeah, he did.
So as to speak.
But he left this with such fascinating colors that wouldn't exist without this personal story that he imbued in it.
Yeah. Well, it is a wonderful, one of my favorite pieces to listen to, just recorded version. I'm not sure I've heard it done live, so this will be a first for me as well. Well, it is it's amazing music that you've chosen, and that's part of this process with the 4 finalists, in that you have one prescribed piece, you have a theme, and then you went off with it. Now you also have a friend of yours who is going to be taking part from a narration standpoint. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So with Sorcerer's Apprentice, there is this story that goes along with it, and it was based on a ballad by Goethe. The really famous writer. And so, and that's the story that is featured in Fantasia. We just turned the sorcerer into Mickey Mouse. Yeah. And so that, you can listen to this piece of music absolutely by itself, and you can hear the story unfold. You can hear the spells being cast, which is played by the trumpets. You can hear the work of the brooms, bringing the water, which is in the bassoons. And so you don't need to hear a story to understand the music. However, with a really great actor, I found it's just kind of fun to add in. You can call it narration, but he's not going to be, standing there lecturing, in a dull voice. Like, John's a great animated character, and he adds in the story as the orchestra is playing, and I think it just gives it a little bit of lift and just a little more, just a little lightheartedness aspect, I guess, by adding in the narration. Just a new way to present it. So I thought that'd be kind of fun, because this piece has been played by the Waco Symphony before, and now we can do it again, but just with a slight twist.
Hey y'all, I'm April.
Hi, I'm Caroline.
And we have a new podcast for you. What's it called, Caroline?
Bloody Happy Hour.
It's going to be your new favorite guilty pleasure. We're going to talk about some bloody stuff. Serial killers. True crime. Rapists. Why not join us? We'll have a good time.
You literally never know. I don't know what I'm going to say. Bloody Happy Hour. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey, I'm Blair.
And I'm Brittany. And we're the host of
By the Cover Podcast.
We cover everything from mysteries, thrillers, romance, chick lit, and even some smut.
Don't forget the smut.
Yeah.
We're so excited to get this thing going and share this with you guys. We've been talking about this for months, and it's finally happening.
Yes.
Special shout out to Rogue Media for helping us with this.
For sure. You can find us on Instagram at bythecover_podcast.
You can also find us on Facebook and TikTok, so don't forget to give us a follow on those two also.
And we are so excited to dive into some of our favorite books and share those with you.
We can't wait. Hope you love it.
What are we doing here, Rusty? What are we going to do?
Yep, we're doing the King of the Hill Rewatch Podcast.
King of the Hill Rewatch Podcast. Yeah, so we're going to go through one episode at a time. Come along for the ride with us.
Come check it out.
And give me a good like Dale Gribble quote to go out on. Wingo.
Yeah, Wingo.
Wingo. All right. Well, join us for the King of the Hill Rewatch Podcast.
Deep in the heart of Texas, that drinks his brew and he spits his chew. Deep in the heart of Texas, the TV blares but no one cares. Deep in the heart of Texas, here we go.
Well, now I want to move back through your life. We'll eventually get to the very beginning, but kind of go back from now. Back, just in the last several weeks, you were in Austin and conducting young people's concerts, and you've been doing this for many years now. Let's talk about that whole aspect. I, of course, have a huge passion for children's symphonies.
Absolutely.
Here in Waco.
Yeah, I think if you would ask most of the musicians, the Waco Symphony, what inspired you to do music, or how did you get started? And most of them would probably have a story that dates back to when they were a kid or a child even. And so I think that inspiration that happens when you reach out to young people can be so powerful. And it's not that we're looking to make every young person into a musician. That's not the point. But if that happens, wonderful.
How great,
But the bigger thing is showing children, young people, how music and art can be a part of their life, their entire life, whether that's simply through just listening to music or viewing visual art or reading poetry, or going to the movies. All these are art forms. And I absolutely believe in the power and the place of classical music in our lives. And so, yes, I love doing these young people's concerts for 3rd and 4th graders. I've been fortunate to go down to Austin many times over the years, and we craft a program that's just for them. We choose music that is for that age range. We talk about it in a way that we try to connect to their lives. This year's theme was the idea of innovation and creativity in music. And so we kind of combed through past composers all the way up to, we had a living composer with us. Jessica Meyer came to the concert. She came out on stage, waved to the audience, because sometimes young people especially, they don't get to see the creator of art. And so being able to see the person on stage that I wrote this music, is for you. And here's how, things you can listen for and ways you can plug into it. It's really powerful. And so I absolutely love doing these concerts for young people. It changed me when I was sitting as a 4th grader in the audience of the Omaha Symphony, where I grew up at Omaha, Nebraska, taking in a Nutcracker performance. That helped inspire me to love music more and push me down the journey that I'm on today in this career.
Well, you have said your parents were not really musically inclined, but your mom knew that was an important part of your education, and so you and your siblings, you got to do an instrument. Let's talk a little bit about those early childhood years in Nebraska.
Yeah, so my mother did play flute, and she won't say that she was an all-star, but she played through high school, through college, and she was a teacher. She retired a few years ago. She taught preschool her entire life, so those youngest of kids, and she just wanted, like all parents, they want their kids to experience things and to see if something sticks, whether that's art or music or sports. And so my 2 siblings and I all got started on string instruments. So I started cello when I was 3 years old. And
wow, that's kind of little for a big old. Well, you had one of those little tiny cellos.
That's right. They come in all sizes.
Those little Suzuki cellos.
That's right. They are tiny in size. And the funny thing with cello is that when you're that young and that small, not only do you have a small cello, but you also have to have an appropriate chair. So that's why you often see young cellists and their parents lugging the cello and the chair that they need to sit in, and then you graduate up to an adult chair by the time you get to be a teenager. So that's what got me started, and my love for classical music started when I was young, and I'm so grateful to my parents that created that opportunity for me.
You did go to a Ball State though, and but your instrument was percussion. You shifted to percussion, didn't you?
Yeah,
At some
it's sort
point?
of, I'm the middle child, so I have an older brother.
I am too, so
Okay.
I got you.
But there's that idea that like often, not always, often, siblings emulate one another, right?
Yeah.
So my older brother, he played violin and he started when he was 3. But when he got to 5th grade, he's like, you know what? I also want to join the band. And so he picked up the trumpet.
Yeah,
and
there's
joined-
not too many marching violins.
Right, there's not too many violins. So he kept doing violin, but added in the trumpet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was a middle kid. And when I got to 5th grade, well, by golly, I'm going to join the band too. So I picked up percussion and continued to do cello and percussion all the way until college. So, and then I got to college and I went to Ball State in Muncie, Indiana. And, the idea was I really wanted to be a high school band director. And I love teaching, and I finished a music ed degree. But about 2/3 of my way through schooling, I'd gotten really involved in the performance aspect, just playing a lot. I had a wonderful experience doing study abroad in Vienna. I took lessons with musicians there, and I kind of came back from that experience just being pulled back onto the orchestra side, and also just wanting to work with professional orchestras, just wanting to be a conductor, yes, but not because I wanted to wield the stick, but I see the conductor as a galvanizing force for music and art. It's a way, in that position, I can, like we talked about with the young people's concerts, I can help bring music to young people. I can create programs that pull in people from all across a community. I get to help be the coach, so to speak, of the gathered musicians towards that aim of playing a piece a certain way. So there's a lot of those just sort of leadership and aspects of the conductors what really pulled me in, and that's where I sort of shifted focus.
Yeah. So how did you choose University of Texas? How did that work?
Yeah, I auditioned at several schools. I had several options to go to. But, it took visiting campus, coming to Texas, coming to Austin, viewing the school, learning about the city of Austin and what other opportunities might be there outside of the school, which that's how I developed the relationship with the Austin Symphony and their music director, Peter Bay, who's one of my dear friends and mentors. After that visit, it kind of was a no-brainer. I walked away being like, yeah, I'm definitely going to come down here.
Yeah, I'm going to Austin.
I'll go to Austin, yeah.
Good. Well, it's wonderful. You've had an amazing career, though, so far. You got your graduate degrees, 2011, something like that. And so won some prizes and conducted a variety of places. Your main gig right now is up in the Pacific Northwest, though, right? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I'm based in Seattle, Washington at the moment, and about 20 miles south of Seattle is a town, Auburn, Washington. And so I conduct the Auburn Symphony. It's a marvelous regional orchestra of super talented musicians. And we've been able to grow over the years and expand the type of offerings that we do. One of my big initiatives when I started was to start a concert for 3rd and 4th graders. So much like what was done down in Austin, we now get to do in Auburn.
Oh, that's great.
This year we got all 1,200 4th graders of our school district
get out really
in to see a concert that was crafted just for them. So sometimes I'm really proud of that, and we're creating collaborations with other arts groups in the area. So we've had dance troupes doing everything from Appalachian Spring in a brand new setting to a dance troupe doing the Music of Fame, the great 1980s movie on one of our Pops concerts.
Oh my goodness!
We've had visual artists in collaborating with us, and then next year we're doing a big choral collaboration with one of the local choirs that I'm super excited about. It's a beautiful corner of the country. You've got mountains and all around you, and it rains a bit, but you learn to see through it.
Well, and you've also spent some time on the other coast in North Carolina.
Absolutely.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, very fortunate to have been the associate conductor of the North Carolina Symphony. It's a full-time orchestra based out of Raleigh. What's interesting about that orchestra is it's one of the few that regularly travels. So about 30% of their concerts are done on the road. So we do things in Raleigh, and then we get on a bus and we drive around the state bringing music to communities that don't otherwise have access. So
that's pretty important.
It is, and it's something that I just got to join in for my tenure and be a part of that, but it was something I was so proud of and just so happy that this orchestra is dedicated to that cause of meeting people where they're at, not always forcing people to come to us, but we're going to come to you. We're going to bring the music to your community with these programs that we think will resonate with you. And so that was a really powerful experience to have, and that I just hope to take with me in all my future work.
I guess you've seen, though, in your work with a variety of orchestras, some of the challenges that these orchestras face are the same. Mm-hmm. And one of the big ones is, just getting folks to come to the concerts. Getting those. I don't know if there's just a sense of, that's highbrow. That's not. How do you make the whole thing more approachable to folks? That of course, children's symphonies go a long way toward doing that. But how do we kind of get that communicated to the adults?
Yeah, it's a great question. And my feeling about this, which, I don't have all of the answers, but my feeling is that an orchestra is most successful, and I define successful as in people want to come and listen to what you're presenting, is most successful when you are an orchestra of your community and where everyone feels that there is a place for them in your concert hall. And sometimes maybe the concert hall isn't even the place where that person feels safe. Maybe it's out on the lawn for an outdoor concert. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's taking the orchestra or a chamber group to a local coffee house, or to the YMCA or the Boys and Girls Club, or to the Salvation Army. Being in an orchestra for everyone can mean many different things. The type of repertory that we do, we've got all the classics, and I love those, and I am dedicated to them. But maybe there's also space, where I know Waco Symphony has presented Lyle Lovett with the orchestra.
Was hugely successful.
Absolutely, and that's I think that's absolutely wonderful.
Oh yeah, you saw cowboy hats and belt buckles that normally you didn't see going to Waco Hall.
That's right.
It was wonderful.
Yep.
And he was just charming and fun, right. Thoroughly enjoyed working with the Waco Symphony, and I know Stephen Hyde felt the same way.
Yeah, and that's just it. I think that's what Waco does well, and what I would look to expand is doing these concert presentations that appeals to everyone. Because it's okay with me if someone doesn't want to come to every concert that we do, that maybe they just want to pick the flavor that most resonates with their palate, and I'm totally fine with that. And I'm happy when people see something what we're doing that they like, and they come check us out.
Yeah, well, we have seen industry-wide, that's been the trend, that folks buying a whole season of tickets because they just don't know if they're going to be able to go to it, because people's lives are busy, and so they're picking and choosing which concerts to go to. They end up going to all of them, but but you've got to have those strong, that strong patron support, which I'm proud to say Waco Symphony really has a wonderful base of support, passionate folks about the symphony.
Absolutely. I've met wonderful people throughout this week, and more to come, I know, because people...
We get too busy.
That's right. But everyone has the same sense of they love the symphony, they love the role that it plays in their community, and they're also excited. They want to see what more can we do? What else can we do? Right. How can we pull in those folks who aren't yet here? And I love that kind of thinking, that mentality. It's what I'm passionate about, of bringing this brilliant music that sparks our imagination, that gives a place to our humanity. I just love that feeling that I feel in town about this beloved orchestra.
Well, it's been a delight to get to meet you and know you better, and let you know this wonderful community a little bit better. And certainly had a great time so far with the musicians that will be bringing their orchestral magic on Saturday evening. And folks can go to wacosymphony.org. I think that's right. Or is it .com? Anyway, Waco Symphony, and get tickets there. But I like to end these little visits with a little questionnaire similar to the one the late great. I think you're already onto this. Are you possibly on that? Have you done your homework?
I heard something that there's some questions that might be asked at the end.
I might be asking them. Well, the late great James Lipton did this on Inside the Actors Studio, and this is my take on his questions. And the first one is, what is your favorite word?
What is my favorite word? Oh man. Favorite word. This sounds a little funny, but it probably goes along the lines of yes, but it's almost more like a phrase. I love the phrase like, yeah, I'll try that. Because I like that attitude, of, there's so much richness to this life. There's so much to see and read and taste and take in. And I love it when people open themselves up to that. And that probably just relates from what I do, for like the program this weekend. I hope people will, if you've never heard of Anna Klein, great. I just hope you'll come and be like, I'm gonna really listen to this. I'm gonna take it in, and and on the other side of it, see what I think. So I kind of like that idea, that word of yes, I'll try that.
Yeah, kind of a willingness.
Yeah, willingness.
Yeah.
Now,
what is your least favorite word then?
It's probably the opposite. It can't,
Yeah.
And that's also probably personal. I think sometimes myself is like, I don't think I can do that, or I don't see myself capable. That sort of inner saboteur, comes out. And I've seen how it's been a challenge to me and a challenge to others. And I think if we can all just, find a way to work around that or believe in ourselves a little bit deeper, we'll discover things that we didn't know were down there.
Yeah.
So it's not saying it's like a negative bad word, but just like we can do this. We can all do this together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Yeah. I'm inspired by others. So I would say other people's creativity.
Oh, really?
I love to read. I'm trying to get more and more into poetry, but I'm always reading fiction and nonfiction, reading about what people have done in the past, their thoughts about their future. I love, those great writers, that can distill life's truths or wisdom into a story, and where you just turn that last page and you just sit back in your chair and you go, man, what do I think of this? That those things inspire me. Other artists, absolutely, whether it's music or visual art, you see things and you're just like, God, where did that come from?
Yeah.
How magnificent. And then that's what I tried to soak in and take in and put into the music making that I do, is these experiences, these creativity of other people.
Mm-hmm. Then conversely, what turns you off creatively or spiritually or emotionally?
Kind of related maybe to the least favorite word is it's maybe when people don't have enough space in their hearts for people that are different from them. Yeah. I think the more we can be kind to one another, the more we can accept people for where they're at and embrace them and their differences and celebrate their differences. That's where creativity sparks, right?
Yeah.
If we were all the same or all shared the same beliefs, I think we'd be a much less rich in our soul, community. So I just always hope people can find that space for other people.
Well, I love asking this of a musician. What sound do you love the most?
Ooh, what sound? I think I mentioned this in rehearsal last night just because it belonged to the music. And this is probably an odd answer, but I actually really like the sound of silence.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, but in this context of silence in between sounds. We often think of music and you think sound and sound only, right? Music is sound. But I think to make sound meaningful, it's those spaces in between, the little breaths, the little bits of silence that separate it. And that to me, that's where the wisdom falls in these great fiction writers. It's in that silence where you make that connection between the previous thought or sound and the one to come. So I think I really love those moments on stage with musicians where there's just the atmosphere just sort of hangs with what's next, in the silence.
Very cool. Then what sound do you hate?
Grinding metal, screeching. When your brakes need attention.
Oh,
and you hear that car go down
Ready
the street.
for a brake job.
That's one of the ones. Yeah.
What other profession would you have liked to try?
I used to always say that I wanted to be a dancer, and actually I'm a terrible dancer. But watching, just like the most recent, everyone probably saw the Super Bowl and the halftime show, and I see this mass of dancers all in coordination, and expressing again these thoughts or these emotions through physicality. I've always just found that so fascinating, and I wish my body could move that way and express that way. Which a conductor does a lot of those things.
Well, yeah, you do,
of course. But otherwise, I would think social work. Working with others, helping enabling others to be their best. I think that is really rewarding work.
Oh, very good. Well, what job do you would not want to do? Thank you very much, but no.
Job I don't want to do. Oh. One of the luxuries of being a conductor, and I don't take this for granted, is there's I get to have a lot of say in how I spend my time. There's work to be done. There's scores to be learned. Of course, there's rehearsals to be at and concerts to be
Those
at.
Those are set. When that's happening.
Exactly. But it's the time in between that I get the luxury of how I allocate it. Mm-hmm. And so I think the job I can't see myself is just if I have to go to an office 8 to 5. I think I really struggle because I've never had to do that before. And I think that would be very hard for me.
Yeah. Well, finally, what do you want to hear God say to you when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Oh, what a question, huh? And I don't know. I mean, because I don't want it to be about me. Maybe that's just, I kind of have this nature of wanting to always help others. So I guess it would just be, thank you for loving on others and accepting yourself and lifting others up. I mean, that's what I want to do with my life and with the music that I make. And I hope I'm on the right track for that.
Well, you are on a great track right now. Wesley Schultz, thank you so much, Wes, for spending some time with us. It is a busy week, I know. A lot of folks to meet, things to do, rehearsals to have, and just a fabulous, fabulous concert ahead. So thank you again. Appreciate
thank you so much
your
for
time.
Having me, Ann. Love this.
And thank you for being with us. Join us again next time for Central Texas Life. Bye-bye.
Central Texas Life with Ann Harder is part of the Rogue Media family. Be sure to check out our other shows at roguemedianetwork.com. Please rate this show 5 stars on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Join us again soon for more Central Texas Life with Ann Harder.